my job is easy because I know that I have a very good moderator for this discussion. It's Claudia Schmitz. She will be the moderator and she will also introduce the other panelists. Some of them you know already from the morning program, but we have two more guests, but I will just hand it over to Claudia. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Willy. Hello to the audience, and I hope I can create an interesting discussion for you. And of course, we will have time free for your questions so that we get all the input of the room. We are quite European audience and we are a very German audience somehow, even if you are not all living in Germany. So perhaps it will be interesting to have some more aspects from Japan, from Brazil if he's still there, and from other countries, how they think about learning. So yes, Willy introduced me already. I have two sides in me. I found out just right now I was on a consultant side. I was working in companies in communications, and now I'm also, call me a facilitator of board games, and I help to do companies to use them more efficiently. So I have a kind of several hats on, and I try to sneak into your heads to see what might be in it and that I get it out so that we have a good introduction. So I would like to introduce first the lady. It is Miriam Conrad, and Miriam Conrad is at DB Mobility Logistik AG, and this is the Deutsche Bahn. Mobility Logistics stands for mobility is moving people and logistic is moving goods around the world, and her job is the DB Academy in Frankfurt, and she is there the project coordinator and uses board games to implement new strategies. So we will learn a little bit more about this. And on the other side, we have Dr. Daniel Engelberger, and he is not from HR, so he is Head of Global Business Service at Zurich Insurance Group in Zurich. And what I read here in this profile, and he might even show a little bit more what he's doing, so he is not responsible that his people are trained, but he's responsible for the global management of finance operations and corporate real estate and facility management. So there is quite some functional background, but he is an admirer of games, and he will let us know how he sneaks around his HR people who perhaps don't like to use it. So there are some challenges in this too, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so the other guys we know already, so the gamification and the change expert, and I would like to put the question to you and to let us share some experience with you. Why do you love simulations and board games?
We love simulations because the simulations show a bigger picture behind the area of responsibility from the executives. We train the executives of the DB Mobility and Logistics AG, which are around about 8,000 people. The operational executives are around about 4,000 people, so a lot of executives that we have to train. And we set up within the DB group a new strategy and a new leadership understanding. And then our task was to train the executives in the new strategy and in the new leadership understanding. And we use simulations to train our operational executives. They can act in an isolated room. They can see what their behavior makes to others, and they can see the consequences of their behavior in the short run and in the long run. And that gives them the bigger picture behind the area of responsibility and makes them clear that they do have an impact on the success of the company.
Mm-hmm. So just to let us know what your background regarding games is.
So as Claudia said, I'm heading quite an operational entity in an insurance company. So I'm heading a lot of people who you mentioned to be blue-collar worker. And for me, it's very important once we do train people that they understand the levels of an insurance company. And once you're placed in real estate, so you look after buildings, or you do facility management, or you're placed in security or in print and document management, it's probably not the first thing when you do your daily job. How can I add to the overall result of an insurance company. And that's very, very important that every piece in the chain understands the impact of it. And a simulation game we use exactly trains that. And it's less about the fancy user interface, so not colorful. It's more about the background logic in this simulation game, that people understand what the impact is, in which market they go, what products they sell, how much they invest in IT, and so on and so forth. So that's why I'm thrilled by having simulation as a means of training within Zurich.
Thank you. So the big question is, everybody is excited about simulations and games, and the question is, why is there only such a limited use of it? If we see everybody should use simulations, and the question is, why don't we use simulations? So what is your experience from this?
So my experience here is that most companies or management in companies mixes basically simulation or games, and they think we just play games. So we're basically not working. We are detracted from work, even if we're going. So it's always taking me out of my work context. Of course, we know the numbers. When you use a traditional learning, you have like 10% of the knowledge remains with the people. If you do it in a more gamified and visual way, you have 30 to 50% of the knowledge sticks with the people. But if you can give them an immersive experience that simulations and serious games do, then up to 90% of this knowledge sticks with them. So that may be important. But I think what we have to rethink also in such a conference like here is, do we really want to keep it as a separate thing that takes us out of work, or do we bring it into the systems that people operate? I just tell you, when I have companies coming and they want to gamify the learning experience, we start typically with the existing content that they have and put them in a framework like a learning tree that they can have, and get the people get feedback and figure out of how many courses have already done, etc. The second step would be that I take a learning unit and gamify it itself by making it a serious game, by making it a simulation. But actually we should throw all this away and redefine the work that a game designer or a trainer has, instead of doing it after the fact, after the product is built, after the knowledge is there, and prepare it for our learners. Be in the design process of the product right from the beginning. That means if you play a game such as Angry Birds, Skyrim, or Halo, you're never going into a training class to do that, but you right away play in the system. So why not just enter the CRM, the customer relationship management system, the change management system, and any other system, and make it in an onboarding way so that you have this flow principle followed. This would, I think, change the perception and how management would welcome games and simulations. If this is a smooth onboarding process in an existing system, it is considered work and not just a game.
Yes. And what is your experience about this? Where takes learning place? In the workplace, like he says, where you are onboarded, where you are involved in your everyday situation? Or is it just the effect that you go outside, have a little bit fresh out of all the struggling in the companies, and you learn on a separate place?
Yeah, the learning happens everywhere, all the time, because you cannot not learn. So even when I'm talking to you and you are listening, we are continuously learning, because we would not survive as a species if we don't have the capability to continuously learn. So there is sometimes the question of what do we call learning, and do we need to formalize something to be able to call it learning? Because you learn by doing what you're doing every day with your colleagues, but also you learn in a classroom, you learn through the game. So all intervention is actually continuously helping us to learn. In my experience, and again, I am biased, 30 years doing this thing, so it's maybe not the most objective point of view, but the way I look at it is that the games or the methodology of simulation and games provides us with the opportunity to actually create laboratories for change. I was just talking to somebody. There is a glass that is sitting there that we are drinking from. This glass has been, from material, from the structure, from the design, endlessly tested, endlessly actually gone through a whole series of processes before it became a product that I'm allowed to buy or use. How often we design whole organizations and processes and systems without actually ever testing it in an integrated way, actually playing with it. And that's what the gaming provides. It provides the opportunity to actually test. And with some of the clients, we are successful to create this sort of parallel reality at different levels of abstraction, where you actually increase the speed of learning about something that you want to do in reality. Parallel to that, because the learning happens at the workplace, you have to have the almost from the culture, but also supported by system processes, that the people actually can get to the required knowledge or skill at the time of the need, which means that at the time when they are actually engaged in a certain process. Mm-hmm. And that's where then the gaming also takes part, is because how do you do that so that it is not imposed, but it is sort of coming from this intrinsic motivation to do things better or faster or more engaged. And when you were presenting something, I had a sort of a brainwave, is that you mentioned the world of the Warcraft. I don't know the exact figure, but I think about 70 million, if not more, of people are actually playing the world of the Warcraft at the moment. Now, 70 million people, what are they doing? They are leading the clans, they are leading the teams, they are managing the resources, they are solving problems, they are making plans, they are creating strategies, they are implementing the strategies, they are communicating, negotiating, actually doing everything that, let's say, an average manager every day at the business does. But they are actually paying for the right to be able to do that. So if we could somehow make our work so intrinsically motivating and so engaging and so rewarding, maybe the future of work will be that we will be paying for the right to work. And of course, that's an illusion in a sense, but that's what the power of the games bring, because then you have to ask yourself, how come that the faces that we saw, that you presented, of the people engaged in, how come that we are not able to have that in reality? And what is preventing us to actually creating the... And then back to your question, what is preventing us is the culture, because the culture is the slowest thing to change. The corporate cultures, the educational culture, the learning culture. The second is the fear of being seen as not serious. And that's what they say, okay, now gaming, now we should say it's a serious gaming, because then somehow it sounds more serious if you call it serious gaming. So we are trying to find the ways to actually create acceptance, but the only way to actually do it is to just do it. And some are more successful, some are less, and some companies are more willing to experiment, some are less. But to really implement it, we had to start from the schools. So now in the Netherlands, there's a group looking into creating the whole curricula of the mathematics and the base in the elementary schools as a game. So no more lectures, no more classes, trying to say, can we develop a game that will teach the complete curricula of math in elementary school? And if you can get that, then you are starting to change the whole thing.
That's right. About schools we come later, because I had already an interview this morning at breakfast table with my Japanese colleagues, and I wanted to know how much they play in the kindergarten and how much they learn to use this. And they say the government even tried to force us to play more in class, but the teachers refused. So it's a quite interesting topic. But back to the companies. I would like to know, you have been in the Deutsche Bahn, you have always a culture of being a big family. This is from the beginning on, it's such a complex system. If you don't work together, it will not work. So how much could you put this spirit of working together in the game? So what was how do you really do it? That would be interesting. So it's a kind of creating culture, and creating culture in games is really a little bit difficult. So let us have an insight what you did.
That's really the basic element of our business simulations. At the moment, we have 2 business simulations. One simulation is computer-based, and there the participants act like CEOs of a cable car. We are the German railway company, so we chose a context that was very similar to our daily business. So it was a cable car, and there the participants have to solve different tasks, and for solving these tasks they get points at an index. And this index is very similar to our corporate strategy. And so by this we have implemented the corporate strategy in our simulation, and they also have to solve tasks that concern the leadership style and the leadership understanding in the company within the DB group, and for that they get also points in this business simulation. The other simulation we use is a haptic simulation, where the participants separate themselves also into different groups, and each group is a CEO or is responsible for one business unit. But the participants have to choose one group that is not their business unit they are working for. And by separating the participants in this way, we try to get an understanding for the complexity of our DB group. And the message of the game is to work together in order to gain business success. And then the participants have to collaborate in order to get business success in the simulation.
And how could you find an impact on their everyday working? I mean, we do play and work. So could you find an impact on this, and can you somehow measure that?
Yes, we try to transfer the content of the simulation by working together with 2 trainers. We always have one trainer in each group that is the expert of the business simulation, and we have one trainer who is the kind of like behavior trainer who tries to help the participants transfer the content into their daily business. And then they do reflection rounds, reflecting teams, and so on, in order to translate the content into their daily business.
Mm-hmm. So it's a kind of tandem.
Yes, it's a tandem of trainers we work together with, and we get very positive feedback from the trainers as well as from the participants of our program, because otherwise the context would be too abstract for our participants.
Mm-hmm. And the end result would be that they will be better managers, and the result of this would be that the employees are more satisfied. So this is the chain of the whole thing. So do you see an impact there already?
Yeah, we see an impact. The impact is mainly that the participants get the bigger picture behind their area of responsibility, and one participant told me, "Oh, okay, now I know why our board did the strategy, and now I understand their decisions, and now I know my impact on the business success."
Yes, I think this is the most wonderful feedback you can get from a seminar, that finally somebody understands the decision of the board. I can tell you, this is you'll die for that if you get this as a trainer. So the question is for you. You also said that you have excellent feedbacks from your people who do it, and you had your experience before. So before you came to the insurance, did they use board games already?
So there were some games,
yes.
But the one I was looking for was not available. And actually, Ivo and I share a commonality. So I worked in Ivo's current company for quite some years, and back then I had as a side job the role of being responsible for insurance trainings in Austria, Switzerland, and Germany. And trainings back then very much were, we present something and you hopefully get it, which is not the most effective way. And then I found a spin-off of Munich University, and they offered me a simulation game, property and casualty insurance simulation game. And similar to what you just described, it's about playing an insurance board. So you need to make decisions as an insurance board. And then you play year cycles. And you immediately get the feedback. Mario, coming back to what you presented, you get the feedback directly. And with that, you get an understanding of what your action really cost. And I remember the first time I played this game, I totally messed it up. I didn't incorporate the collaborative spirit. Comes back to what you presented, Ivo. And I messed it up in reinsurance. And I, since then, understand how big a lever of reinsurance can be. So, and that's something I will never forget. And the participants now, once they run through it, they understand what impact their work have on the business part. And also, they can follow the action logic of the business far better than they used to before.
And I have another question for you. You said you are taking this from your background into your field of responsibility because you have your goals and you know how to get them quicker if you use a different way of getting people to understand the whole thing. So this is your personal decision, more or less. Or is there some HR people involved?
No, it was my personal decision to bring that training in. Mm-hmm. And obviously, in big companies, there is some structures. So I brought it in and said, that's what I want. And then we integrated it into the learning curriculum. And there it is now.
And did it spread a little bit? Did some people get more interesting what you're doing?
It did spread. It's a supply and demand game, however. So the supplier or partner I have can only offer four sessions a year to us because they're offering to Accenture, to other companies as well, these trainings. And I book 4 sessions a year, right? And I bring as many people in as I can. And it's a quite small amount of people. So Ivo, you were mentioning you were playing a game with 60 people or up to 60 people this afternoon. This game is only up to 20 people. It's a very intensive course. It's a 3-day course. And once you get out of this course, you really do understand the levers of insurance, and that's what I'm looking for.
Good. So I have another question to you, and the question is, a lot of people have the feeling that the games which we can use in business are the typical balance sheet-based simulations, and they have no idea or couldn't imagine that you nearly can change all the trainings or all kind of learning environments with games. So you are specialist in gamification. So what have been topics of gamification which people have never thought about that you can do and learn this with games? Can you give us as an example?
Well, it depends on the industries often. So when I tell people that one of the most active areas or industries in gamification is the banking sector, people are really surprised. Banking, you would never expect that. But if you look at EU bank stress tests, what is that? This is nothing else than a simulation. Yeah, you look at the balance sheets that these banks have, and you take away some positions and see how it cascades through the balance sheet, and if the bank can survive. They of course use simulations in games, serious games, gamification, simulations in a variety of areas. The European Central Bank tries to make people understand the concepts of interest rates or unemployment, of how they are related to each other, or what it means, inflation, what barter trade means, etc. To show that. Banks, on the other hand, want to teach children, for example, what the financial system is. I have a friend who was with his 11-year-old daughter 2 years ago in a toy store in Menlo Park in the Silicon Valley, and they couldn't remember how much money she still has for her allowance. So she thought it's way more, so she can buy the toy. He thought, no, you already spent the money. So what did they do in the Silicon Valley? They started a startup, a financial services startup for kids, which teaches children about financial services and how to do that. This is dangerous for the banks on the one side because they suddenly have educated customers coming up there, but they may also have loyal customers, because if they are being attached to the bank accounts of their parents, guess what happens when they are adults? They will be probably staying and sticking with the bank. So banking is one of these areas where you would never expect that they're doing a lot in that space.
Absolutely. So back to the Netherlands, you are famous for having very innovative ideas. So when you look in your consultancy situation and your customers, so what do you think is a trend, or is there some development where customers or people, customers more or less, are jumping on new issues and train in a new way? Is there some trends? Could you give an example for that?
Yeah, there are a couple of trends, but they are not maybe the trends you are looking for. But
well,
so the one of the trends is that we notice that and we encourage that is that if you look at the organizations, the client for simulation, serious games is shifting from the HR to the business. So more and more people in the business are saying, I want this. So they're not outsourcing the responsibility for deciding what kind of learning methodology we are going to use to the HR. They are actually making decision. We believe that this is the way to do it. Another trend is that the organizations are trying to really include all of the layers of the organization actually following the same methodologies of how to learn and how to explore and how to learn from exploring. So literally from the top management to the operational level. So it is not segmented as before to sort of the big groups of people, but you're really targeting different groups with different. So that's another trend that we see. Another trend that we see is that it is, at some moment it looked like that it is moving toward digital and moving more and more to the digital, but what we now realize the last couple of years, that there are clients, and they are very large global companies like Shell, like AkzoNobel, like ASML, so that they are saying that there is extreme value in actually analog games and analog simulations, because they engage people in a different way than the way that they engage after the screen. Another trend, and that's how the whole issue of gamification has come to become sort of almost a fashion word in the mind world, is trying to be quicker, is trying to get benefits quicker than before, and trying to try to use anything that you can to actually improve your operations. And they say, hey, if I can speed up the process of learning by using gamification, so let's do that. So it is expecting the benefits of learning much earlier. So it is not saying, okay, now I'm engaging in the process, we're going to run games for a couple of months, and then we hope that people will. No, immediately there is intervention. What is the effect? And so that's another is also the volumes. I mean, because of the technologies, you can access much more people. Mm-hmm. So we have a client, and I can't name it, that says, okay, we want a game to teach them the basics of the core values of organization, and we want you to do that for 360,000 people globally, and it should be a 1 hour thing, and it should be in 2 months, and it should be distributed to. So you're challenged suddenly with also the growing ambitions of the organizations, recognizing that the traditional way of actually getting to the people in terms of because the only things you can change, either you are changing what I know, or you are changing what I do, or you are changing how I behave. I mean, there's nothing else. And the knowledge, of course, could be awareness or something. And then they target those three different things also in a sort of integrated way. So it's not only about do you know what you need to do, but are you able to do it, and are you able to actually behave in a certain way in your system, because you're never alone in your action, to actually reap the benefits of the.
Yes. So I think you have the same situation in your company. You have told me that you have already some experience from your field about using more digital media, and I would like to have your experience as a global head of global business services. You have to reach all people out there. How do you do that, and what is the effect on regarding games or things like that?
So obviously we use the digital media heavily as well. But I'm glad to hear, Ivo, that one of the trend is coming back to the analog one, at least in the interface. I'm a big supporter of a purpose why you do a training and not mask it by a fancy user interface and diminishing the purpose you have. So if we can combine both, perfect. I've just seen very, very few examples where this has worked so far. So having a great game kernel in the background and having the user interface analog, that's what I'm running at the moment with the mentioned insurance simulation. But yes, we do also have these digital trainings on values, on fraud training, on security trainings, and that's a good addition. But you can show these or run these trainings. You never know with an immediate feedback what really sticks with the participant. That's why I think it's dangerous to assume that what you wanted to achieve, you will achieve by that means. You can see it by walking the talk. Also one of the pieces you had in your presentation, but that's what you can't see immediately. You can see immediate feedback once you do it in a face-to-face environment. And I know that this is difficult with huge global organizations, but you get more out of a training content, I think.
Mm-hmm. So if I would make the hypothesis that we have this online learning, and there is somebody here who would say if you gamificate it a little bit more, it's more fun and people would stick a little bit more to it because they are really boring, like it's A, B, C, click, A, B, C, click. You know, people go through that, do it quickly, and they get the ticket that they've done the course most of the time. So there could be more fun, and could be more feedback loops in it so that it is more interactive. But there is also what you said, if you don't build up trust, that is a personal relationship, you won't go deeper in it, it doesn't really stick. So how do you do worldwide trainings in shorter 1-hour sessions on trust without having the managers connected to it?